Hey, y'all. Okay, welcome on. This week's training, we are talking about Canva. Like, we're going to dive right in. I'm going to do a screen share and I'm going to show you guys 3 Canva tips that honestly, I wish I'd learned sooner. One of them I've been using for a while now, but the other 2 are something that's relatively new. And to be honest, you can learn something new in Canva almost every single freaking day. It's so awesome. So if you guys don't already know me, my name is Sarah. I am the creator and CEO of Social Jane Media. And whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, just say hello in the comments. And I would love to know, what do you use Canva for? Like, are you a teacher and you're doing lesson plans and presentations? Are you building a business online and you're creating graphics and doing story slides and reels and all the things? Or are you like just getting started and you keep hearing Canva like from, people in your network and you're like, what the hell is this? I was there. That was me. About little more than 2 years ago. I didn't know what the hell Canva was. I downloaded the app because I kept hearing people talk about it. And I was like, well, let me dive in and see what this thing is all about. And you guys, years later, I'm still learning new stuff. They're still rolling out new stuff. I'll do a training probably in the next couple weeks for their magic like dashboard. This is only for the pro version of Canva, not the free version, but it's so freaking cool. If you have not dove into some of the magic, they call them magic. It's kind of like their AI stuff. But there is some insane capabilities where you can just sort of like distort images and text and elements and all sorts of things. Very cool. So I'm going to dive right into this training because I know when you're wanting to learn how to use Canva, you're just like, can we just get to the fucking point? So I'm going to share my screen with y'all and we're going to dive right in. So the first one I want to show you guys is how to create a color palette based on an image. So there's 2 different ways that I'm going to show this to you. So I have something already set up here that I could, just so I don't eat up too much of your time. So there's a couple different ways you can create a color palette without having one already. So let's say you're just getting started with your brand and you're not really sure what direction you want to go in, and you definitely don't know the hex codes, which is the color codes, right? It's the numerical and alphabetical like numbers that are assigned to each actual unique color. Knowing the hex codes of your brand can be super, super helpful across like all sorts of platforms. But if you don't have that, don't stress about it. So let's say you've got a post that you want to make, right? Okay, so I wrote down this quote from something that I saw. What is it? Nelson Mandela, it says. So may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. All right, so let's say this quote, we want to brand it with certain colors. And maybe you have no idea what those colors are, right? So if you go up here to this text color element here, your document fonts are just black and white right now. So you're like, oh shoot, like what do I change it to? Now you're not going to see all of these color tiles on yours. These are here because these are clients I've worked with, right? This is my own color palette. This is a client. This is a client. All of these right here, these are all clients. So these are saved hex codes for clients that I have done. Now, what you want to scroll to, and you're not going to have to scroll through all these to find it, but when you're here at the top, document colors will always be here for you. What you want to find next is where it says photo colors. This will always appear when you have some sort of photo element inside of the design itself. So when I click on my font and I go to change my colors, if I want my colors to reflect something that is inside of that photo, like let's say I'm really loving the kind of terracottas and the greens and all that that's inside of that image, then in the photo colors, it's going to give you a color palette based on the photo that you select. So let me give you another example. So I searched terracotta outdoors, and that's how I got that photo. But let's say your vibe is bright yellows and soft pinks. I mean, let's just go with it. All right, so let's go to photos and let's see what we see. Okay, bright yellows and soft pinks. This is all very, okay, we get some flowers. All right, so let's pull this photo out. So let's say this photo, we like this yellow and we like this pink, right? And we want to utilize these colors in our design. So you'd click back on your font, go back up here, scroll down to photo colors. And because both photos are still on the design, you're now going to get a color palette for both. So obviously this isn't a super bright yellow, right? Even though we typed in bright yellow, it's based on the image that you actually selected and put into the design. So I'm going to say, let's do our font and a slightly darker color. So I'm going to select this one, which is probably kind of like a maroon sort of color is what it looks like. And we can change our font too, just so we can see it a little better. So if you go with a more bold font, you're going to be able to see the color displayed a little differently. And let's make it all caps. All right. And then personally, I would space these letters out just a little bit. Okay, so now we've got this sort of dark maroon color for our font. So do we want this background to just be white, or do we want to use some of these photo colors to amp it up a little bit, right? So this is off of the terracotta image. Do we want it to kind of reflect the browns and the greens? Do we want to go, see, this is a little too dark down here. So if we went with this purple, then we would probably want to change these letters to either this brighter sort of tan, or you could go white, right? It really just depends on what you're looking to do. But what I'm looking to show you is go down here to photo colors. Anything that you put into your design, it's going to give you a color palette for. Now, there's another way you can do this, and you can, it's outside of Canva, but I utilize this function a lot. So there's a website called imagecolorpicker.com. So you'll notice that there's like a shitload of advertisements. But what I went ahead and did is you can click on use your image, and then you browse and you upload your own image. So I found just like an image that I've used as, I think this is my cover, my profile pic. So you'll notice here that there's a color palette that automatically gets pulled out from the image that you upload. Now you could say, okay, I love this whole color palette, or you could even say these plus minuses. So the plus, it doesn't let me go any higher because this is the most amount of color tiles it will apply to this image. But you could go less. Like, let's say you don't want the greens and, you know, you want just the neutrals. You just kind of keep going less and less, and you can zero in on some of the main colors of the photo. So it really depends. If when you kind of hit that plus sign, it's going to start giving you complementary colors, because as you can see, there's not necessarily this sort of blue and green is not really in there, but it would be considered a complementary color. So you could take these colors and you could just click on, right, this image, and up here it's going to show you what the hex code is. Now you can also use the, oops, where is this going? Now you can also use, see, the page isn't responding. We're going to wait for a minute. It's raining here, so there's a good chance that my Wi-Fi is just not as, you know, sped up as it should be. But there is a color picker option where you can sort of hover your finger over this. We're going to exit the page, and then I'll show you guys the next. Oh my goodness, all of it, all of it. I know you're patient. Okay, so let's go back into imagecolorpicker.com. So this is like the base image that they have, and I'll just use this so I don't have to upload and use more storage and all that. So you see how this sort of eyedropper where you drag it around and it is changing over here, these hex codes. and the complementary colors that go with it, these are updating as you sort of drag through. So let's say you want this sort of orange color, like right here. When I click, now I've got this hex code and I can click this little copy symbol and I can copy it to my clipboard, go right back into my design, click on the text, go into here, paste it here, and boom. Now I've got that sort of brighter yellow tan kind of color pulled from this image. So there's a couple different ways you can grab the colors that you're looking for. And the reason this is so useful is because let's say you're like scrolling around on Pinterest and you see an image and you're like, oh my gosh, all of the colors in this image, oh, gorgeous. They're totally me. I love everything about it. So what you could do is you could download that image. You could then upload it into your Canva profile, or you could go to imagecolorpicker.com and upload it into that, and you could get a whole color palette right out of that one photo that you grabbed from Pinterest or whatever. So that's such a cool function to be able to get the colors that you want without knowing what the hex codes are. Okay. Tip number 2. This one is super, super convenient because sometimes, let's say you come across an element that you love. Okay, what's an element? Maybe you're asking. An element could be, let's say you type in star and you go to graphics. These are all elements, right? And typically when you grab one of these elements, right, they're here on the page, you see the element, and when it's selected, a lot of the times you see that there are color options. So you can easily go in and you can update these colors to be whatever you want it to be. But let's say you grab an element and it doesn't give you the color option. For example, this little page flip down here, it doesn't really give you the color option. Even though this is here, it doesn't actually change the color. So then you're like, well, shit, what do I do? Right? So instead of clicking the color tile or the lack of color tile, because sometimes this isn't even there for you, you would go to edit image, you click on duotone, and then you'll see there's actually already some preset functions in here. Maybe you love one of these, maybe you don't. It doesn't really matter. Just select one of them. And then this little filter setting that you see sitting right here, click on it again. Now you're going to see there are different colors available to you. So now we know that we can change these colors whether we get the prompt of this color tile over here or not. So you can add document colors, right? So if you want it to reflect the purple, if you want it to reflect the yellow that's seen in here, or the orange, so you could change these out, right? But let's do yellow, and then the shadow, maybe it's purple. Like, you see how that changes all of this section down here that previously was not getting altered, and then you just apply it. So selecting the duotone function, oh man, it's such a game changer, because there are some times, like, let's go back to star. Actually, let's do shadow, because I know sometimes, I'll show you. Let's see. Okay, so this shadow here, whoops, let's put this behind. All right, because I want to play with the shadow. All right, so this shadow right here, this is black, right? This whole shadow is black. Now, I don't have any options to play with the color of this shadow. So I'm going to go to Edit Image, Duotone. I'm just going to select one of them, and then I'm going to click it again because I want to get into the actual functions of it. And we're going to change this to sort of a yellow. And look at that. So, and you can play with these shadows and the highlights on this and see what works for you, right? And so let's make the shadow just a little bigger, and then we're going to position it back behind the letters. Oh, let's go back all the way. All right. So now because it's washing out this Halloween. Oh, there we go. Okay. So you see, now I have a black shadow that I changed to this yellow orange kind of tint. So using the tone function can be so super helpful because sometimes you find an element that you absolutely love. And then when you get it onto your design, you're like, what? I can't alter it. I can't change it. Well, now you can. Okay. And then the last little trick that I want to show you guys, it's called the tidy up function. This is such a lifesaver. Honestly, it's like it will save your freaking sanity because sometimes you are creating a design that might be a checklist like this, right? Or maybe you're putting things in line with each other and you're like, oh, it's just not lining up and I can't seem to get it right. Well, there's actually a function in Canva that will help you do it. So you can see that these little bubbles, they are not in line, right? Like I can see that at first glance and I'm like, oh my gosh, my slight OCD brain just goes, whoa. So what you want to do is you're going to select all of these elements, anything you want to quote unquote tidy up. So I'm holding down the shift key and I'm selecting each of the elements. So now they're all selected. I could group them if I wanted to, but that's not the function that we're doing right now. So I click on the three dots and you go over to space evenly, tidy up. Boom. Like it is such a lifesaver. You don't know how many times I have tried to like reposition something and it just isn't quite lining up. So that tidy up function is so, so fantastic. Yeah. See, I just went back and you see how much of a difference it makes just in that little tweak. So just whenever you click on these three dots and you can align it to the page differently. If you have multiple, let's select the words, because if the bubbles were off, there's a good chance the words were off too. This is the template design. So this is just something I grabbed that already wasn't right. So click on those dots, space evenly, tidy up. Okay, so it tidied it up to the center, which is not what we want. So we're going to align the elements to the left. All right. So now they're all aligned to the left. They're all aligned with the bubbles. And it's exactly what we need it to be. It's tidied up. All right. Those are your Canva tips, you guys. Like I said, some of these magic functions in Canva, just insane. Have fun with this though. If you find yourself playing around in Canva and getting really frustrated, step away for a minute and come back to it because it can be super fun. There are like over 60 million elements and stock photos and things to play with inside of this app, right? Because you can do it on your phone. You don't have to use a desktop. I'm only using a desktop so I can screen share with you guys. But I would love to know, what kind of Canvas stuff are you learning on a daily basis? Share it in the comments with us because I guarantee we are all experiencing it, a little bit differently. And sometimes when you come across something really cool, why not share it with somebody? That's exactly why I'm doing this training. So I hope you guys found this helpful and, pop into the Social Jane community if you're not already in there. All of our past trainings live in the guide section. So if you're watching this on YouTube or on my personal profile and Facebook, get yourself in the group so you can have access to all of our past trainings at like a click of a button. And yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.